let's create a well-being guide that is interactive inside PowerPoint. This is the part 2 video of my how to design an interactive guide in PowerPoint. So this is another visual design approach and style that you can use by playing around with PowerPoint's stock photos and graphics and also the iconography. So let's go. I'm going to take you through what we will be creating. So this well-being guide, the theme is around nature, brain garden. So for the busy minds in the workplace, they could take a moment and experience a guide that will help them complete and do a short 1 to 2 minute activity just to relax their minds before they go back into their productive day. So what it would look like is something like this. As you can see, we have a beautiful blurry background of the graphic that's in that banner there. I really wanted to play on the morphism effect and that glassy look and feel. And so we have the introduction welcome text with a button. Clicking the button will take me through to the menu page. So this menu page, you can call it the navigation hub or landing page, but here allows the user or learner to click through and find out which mindfulness activity calls to them so they can do it. So that's exactly what we're going to create. So let's start with a brand new PowerPoint. Okay, starting with a fresh new PowerPoint deck, let's remove the items that we don't need. I'm going to start first by changing the background color to black, only because when we do the morph effect with the graphics that we're going to use, it's going to merge seamlessly. So going into solid fill, color, and selecting black. And now we are going to insert our stock image. As a reference, we are using nature-themed graphics, so you can add in whatever type of graphics that you like as well. That is fine. So we have our insert and going into icons, and it should open up the panel to select images. And here I am going to type in nature. And this is the graphic that I'm using in the second row. So I'm going to select that and insert. And as I've inserted my graphic, let me just close all that. Instead of dragging it to the points of the corner like so and like moving it up like this, you can see that we've skewed the beautifully original image and it's looking a bit squashed. My recommendation always is to crop the image to size of the canvas. So just pull out the image so that it covers the sides and then select the image, picture format, and select crop. And what you're going to do is taking the black line here, move that up so it crops to the canvas neatly. And that's it. So this is our first image. I feel like the green is a bit bright, so let's dim it down a bit. You can do it in 2 ways. You can select color correction and reduce the brightness so it's a bit dark and moody. Alternatively, another hack that I like to do is if I were to Command Z, because the background color is already black, you can change the transparency of the image to blend in with the black as well. So you can select transparency and move it to 50% transparency. And you see how it's already a nice dark graphic so that when we lay over our objects, elements, shapes, text, font, typography, it will make it pop and contrast quite nicely as well. So here I am now going to create a blur. Let's make it a nice blur effect. Select your image, picture format, and go into artistic effects. And in the second row, we have blur, so we can select that. Now the blur here is not blurring enough. We want to increase the blur factor. So go back into your artistic effects options. And on the right hand side, we have a panel where we can play with the radius. So of course, as you increase it, it would create a super blurry effect. But for me, I think I'm just going to hit it to 33, which is my favorite number. So let's do that. Now, adding in some contrast for the welcome page, we are going to insert a shape and using the rounded rectangle, click and drag, just a nice shape in the center. Make sure you're creating some buffer space at the bottom to lay over your button for the next slide. Here we are going to select the yellow square, click and drag to the left just a little bit so we have a slight curved corner, not an extra curvy corner. Release that, click, and in shape fill it in white and also remove the outline. Awesome. What I'm now going to do is add in our banner, our welcome to the brain garden banner. Let's insert icons and go into images and type in nature. You can use the same graphic or another graphic, up to you, but I am going to use the same graphic just so there's some consistency. Now let's create the banner. Like I said before, don't scale to size like this because you are going to squish your graphic. Let's build it outwards and then we can crop. So make sure you have some healthy space all around here so you have a nice even width of the white, and moving up to the crop button as you have selected the picture format, and click that black rectangle and slide it up to here and release. So as you can see, I'm just going to use my mouse and eyeball it because I feel like it was a bit off-centered. It is at the moment sharped corners. It's a sharp rectangle. I want to soften it up a bit to align with our white box. So by selecting your banner graphic, you can then go into the crop drop down and select crop to shape. And the shape that you want is rounded rectangle. So select that. And this now gives you the option to round your corners in alignment to your box. Cool bananas. I'm now going to add in my text and we are going to play with Times New Roman. Whoops. So let's move the text up here and we are going to increase the font size. I've also used a beige creamy color. It's quite neutral. It's not as harsh as the white to make it contrast a bit more. Now, at the moment, the graphic in itself is quite bright. So the contrasting, we're not seeing as much of the welcome to the brain garden as much. So what we can do is let's edit the color correction and make it a bit darker and make it a bit more moody. So correction, select your graphic, go into corrections, and I would probably select 40%, negative 40% brightness and plus 20% contrast to make it crispy. Yeah. If this is too dark and not your vibe, you can always go shift it to the right a little bit. Yeah, that will do too. So the color that I'm using for the font, if you are curious, it is F8 F0E6. Great. Now, we are going to add in some copy underneath the welcome banner. I'm just going to paste it in here. Whoa. What happened? I am going to create a text box and add in the copy. Much better. So position your text how you like it. I'm going to place it all in the center like so. And now let's add in our button. I'm going to create a circle first. Insert circle in the shape. You can hold shift to make sure that it is a perfecto circle. I'm gonna line it into the center, and I'm going to make this circle black. And to blend in with the white, I think we can create an outline in white. So white outline, weight, make it 6, so that it looks like it's blending into that box that we've just created. You can also change the white box. If it's too harsh, you can change it to the beige color that we use for welcome. We can do that just to add some more flavor to the page. More color fill, and just use the color that you've chosen before. Nice. And that also means we need to change our circle outline to this. Beautiful. Let's insert a arrow, so you can go into icons, and in the icon select arrow and find an arrow of your choice. I am going to probably select this down arrow and rotate it to the right. Rotate it to the right and change that color to the beige that we've had. Perfect. We now have our welcome page. Let's go and insert a new slide. So we have new slide. I'm going to remove all of the things that I don't need on page. And let's insert a new nature graphic. Let's take people on a journey to feel calm as they're experiencing our wellness guide. So insert icons, image, and let's type in nature. And find a graphic that you like. I am going to pick this one here, like a top aerial view of a forest, I think. Again, when you are cropping and resizing your graphic, just pull it outside of the canvas until it aligns on both the left and the right side, and then crop your graphic vertically. So crop and move that up to here, and then release. Again, this is quite bright at the moment. Let's do the transparency of the graphic. If I were to reduce the transparency right now of this graphic and the background is white, it's going to make it brighter and lighter. So I'll show you what that looks like. And this is not what we want. We want a dark, moody vibe. So you can right click the background, format background, and change that solid fill color to black. So now when we do our transparency, if we were to do, there you go, 30% or 50%, it would blend into the background. What we're going to do now is create our navigational, our navigational page or hub, putting in some text here and increase the size to 36. I think it could go a little bit darker in the background, but maybe we blur it first and see what happens. Let's blur this background. So insert, picture format, and artistic effects, and go into the second row and find your blur. We want to increase this blur a bit more. So if you go into picture format, artistic effects options, and then increase the blur effect to 33. Great. So now we don't have to darken the graphic, but the text in itself contrasts quite nicely. I'm now going to create our cards. We can go into insert, shape, and the rounded rectangle, and create a card. We want 5 cards. Play around with the roundness of the corners of your card to your liking, of course. We can fill this shape to the beige color in alignment to the heading that we've used to keep the design consistent. No outline, and we have our first card. Let's create 4 more. So Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, Control C, and Control V. So it's a bit too big, but that's okay. Select all of your cards and reduce the size. Hold Shift, move it across. Amazing. And I'm just going to center that. Great. And what we want to also include is perhaps some graphics to show the user that, ooh, it's a question mark right now. But if you hover your mouse over, you can expand to see what each mindfulness practice is. We would like to include maybe a graphic image here. So let's find another nature graphic. Icons, nature, let's maybe do this one. Sugar snap peas. Reduce the size like so. And we can use the crop function to crop it to size. There. I am thinking we may do it in the center. Let's move it across like so. And crop the corners, so crop to shape, crop rounded rectangle. And I'm gonna zoom in for you. Just make it like so. So you have options. You can either do it in a rectangle, you can do it as a circle, just crop it to size. So the ratio is 1:1. And what I mean by that is if you go into the crop here and crop aspect to ratio, you can select 1:1 and it crops it to a circle. So you can have a play with the cropping functionality and see what suits the vibes of your guide. But for now, I'm going to keep it here. And a thing that I'd like to do is, instead of showing the color of the graphic, let's make this gray and saturated so that when a user or learner moves their cursor over, it triggers the color. So what we can do here is move into color and select saturation 0. And that then creates a nice gray-scaled graphic. I'm also now going to start playing with some iconography. So let's add in some iconography. This image is also still a bit bright, so we can correct it and just move that down a little bit darker. Nice, better. We are going to now insert, shape, circle, draw a little circle in the center to house our icon. You can change the color to like maybe a dark green. You can do a dark terracotta color. I'm going to do a dark terracotta because it contrasts quite nicely with the green. And then go into no outline next to shape fill. Let's zoom in, and in our icons panel, so insert, icons, and let's select an icon that's probably most relevant for the activity. So the first activity is about breathing. I think it was a breathing or journaling activity. So maybe you can do pencil or a light bulb. Great. Insert. Oh no. So picking up the icons are a bit annoying. We're just going to have to move our cursor over to the lines. I don't want the pencil anymore. I want the light bulb. So let's move her across into the center. No. Like so. And for contrasting, make sure that your icon is white or the beige color. whatever suits. So now we have this. You can always stretch out your graphic out so it fills up the white space, but we can leave that there for now. Now, the goal to really help create the morphing transition work well when you're putting your mouse over the cards is to think about the before and after. So we have here our main landing page. I'm just going to quickly move these graphics over. Whoops. So think about this as your home page, and in order to navigate to the other sections, what we want to do is create what would it look like after if someone were to move their mouse over these cards. So current state is your before. When we duplicate our slide number 2, one moment as my laptop is thinking, slide number 2 should be very different. So here we want the slide number 2, the first card, to increase in size. We want the card to have some color and also some text or copy explaining what that activity is. And here you can do that by changing the state and the look and feel of slide number 3 so that when slide number 2 is just your main homepage. So homepage before and then after what the card number 1 could look like. So in slide number 3, let's increase the height of our card. And I am going to move my light bulb and circle icon. Oh my, always happens. There you go. Move that up to the top. I'm also going to move up my graphic here. And let's bring back some color and life into it. So color, and you can select the middle color saturation, and also the correction. You can bring back up the brightness as well, if you like. Oh, maybe not, because we're going to put some text over it. So Control Z. And for the text, I already have something that I prepared. I'm just going to hit Control V. What we want to do is lay the text over it. I think this is a nice touch. Whoops. Nice, like so. And have a short blurb underneath of what the activity is. You can even put like a little time icon as well to let the user know how long this activity could take. You can put like a clock icon and put 5 minutes, or clock icon, maybe 30 minutes or 2 minutes, whatever it may be. Let's reduce the size of this and move that across like so. Oh, why are the words all, oh, there you go. Great. And now I'm going to add in a button as well. And we can just copy the button that we used at the beginning of slide number 1. Let's do that, Control C, and then paste it back here, Control V. And we are going to hold Shift and drag inwards to make a button, and perhaps move that arrow icon back to the center using your keyboard arrow keypad. Great. So before, after. Before and after. Where is my text, my bloom text? That's okay. I'll copy that and do it again here because we lost her. There you go, bright and bloom. So before page and after. And now we can put in the transitions in between to really see the effects work. And then after that, we'll be adding in the action settings to trigger the experience, the interactive experience. So back on the home page, I would not put a transition here. I would start the transitions on slide number 2. So selecting slide number 2, move into your transitions panel and select Morph. Amazing. And then for slide number 3, moving into the transitions panel, selecting morph. That's it. Now, if the morph is way too slow for your liking, you can always reduce the duration. You can do it as 5 or 5. Now, if you are not really vibing the blend of the backgrounds from black to the graphic, I'm going to show you what that looks like here. See how it goes black and then blends into the background, and then black and then blends into the background? If you don't like that, you can then change the setting of the background to your graphic. So instead of a solid fill black, you can then do a picture of this graphic, but you're going to have to save it and then upload it. So that's another option for you as well. Now we are going to add in our action buttons. So for slide number 1, going into the arrow key, right click, action settings, mouse click, link to, and the page number. So slide number 2. The reason why you want to target the specific slide is so that if you were to move the slides on the left-hand side in another order, it would still link to that slide. But if you set it as next slide, if you shuffle things around, it will trigger to another slide that you haven't selected. So select OK. And make sure that you do both the arrow and the black circle so that if a user moves their mouse around, they can still click into that button as well. So slide and slide 2 and OK and OK. Great. Moving into slide number 2, we now want to create that hover state and experience. We are going to select our icon. This is going to be a bit fiddly, but it works and ensures that wherever the mouse is moving on that card, it will trigger the next page. So we have mouse over, so select mouse over at the top here, link to slide 3. And repeat the process for the brown circle as well. Right click, action settings, whoop, mouse over, apologies, link to slide number 3, and OK. And also our graphic, right click, action settings, mouse over, link to slide number 3, OK. And also one more for good measure, our beige card. Action settings, mouse over, link to, and slide number 3. So you can see doing the action settings step last is probably the most tedious, but the easiest once you have already laid out and designed your deck and guide. That is my recommendation, to always understand the before state and the after state. Let's say you want to develop another slide that takes you to an activity. So as a user, if I click this arrow, it should launch to another page. So I'm going to duplicate this slide here. And on slide 4, I am going to remove all of these cards. I'm going to expand this. And we can maybe play with the layout like so. And then move this around here. I'm just quickly mocking this up so that you can see what the transition would look like as it blends into the before and after. So this page is the before. As we click into the arrow, this is what it could look like, because we're using the objects and the shapes and the graphics from the previous slide. So that's the best way that the morph transition works. That is it. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Please do share your creations with me on LinkedIn, on socials. I'd love to see what you create. And if you have any other suggestions or feedback, do feel free to share it with me, and I'll see you in the next jam. Okay, bye.